Hey everyone, hope you all doing well. Today I'm working on a piece that is quite unusual for me. This is a miniature from the Warhammer 30k The Horus Heresy universe called Horus Ascended. I'm not a fan of Warhammer or tabletop games in general. However, as a painter, I paint minis from time to time, and since I saw this one, I knew immediately that I had to have it on my display shelf. This video is only 14 minutes long, but the painting process actually took me nearly 2 months. In terms of Warhammer scale, this is a massive composition with a total height of 85 mm. It consists of a huge number of parts, every single one of which is extremely detailed. The base, featuring a giant pile of skeletons and bones, really caught my eye. While I'll never play with this mini myself, I'm going to keep it as a playable piece. Who knows, maybe one day someone else will put it on the table. So, without further ado, let's get started. To prepare for the contrast paints, I started by giving the base a generous dry brush. Then I carefully applied skeleton hot contrast, making sure not to let it pull or create streaks. Depending on the desired saturation, I applied either a single or double layer to add extra volume and depth. After that, I used a dry brush to apply the main highlights with skeleton bone. To boost the contrast, I used a dark brown shade to wash the deepest recesses, such as the space between the ribs and the eye sockets. I then added further, more intense highlights using the same skeleton bone, mixed with a bit of white. I decided to paint the Space Marine power armor on the base in the colors of the Imperial Fist's Legion. According to the lore, they were among Horus's primary enemies. I used a standard yellow and heavily weathered it with a dark brown shade to simulate grime and mute the brightness. Then I dry brushed the edges and softened the dark stains. Finally, I used silver to add paint chips and simulate wear and tear. The metal stairs needed to match the overall Grimdark palette, so I went for a rusty look. I used dark brown as the base color and washed the recesses in the grading with an even darker shade to enhance the detail. Next, I applied pure silver using a chaotic stippling method. To tone down the bright shine, I applied a moderate layer of dark brown shade. The two final steps were restoring the silver on the edges and touching up the dark brown in spots. The more layers you add, the more nuance you get. For added complexity, you could use different metallic shades, various browns, or even orange for fresh rust. For Horus's power armor, I chose a dark camel green. Combined with black, gold and silver, I think it looks the most striking. Plus, the dark tones add a sense of menace to the character. After all, in this story he has already fallen to the temptation of chaos. This stage requires a lot of time and patience, because the model features so many decorative elements and rivets that need precise manual work. I would say the power armor is the most tedious part of the entire project. After painting the base coats, I shaded the green with black and the metals with dark brown. I then highlighted them with the base colors. I didn't add any weathering or damage because the model is already very detailed. Adding more would have made it look like a mess. The cloak needed to look pompous and fit to his status, so I stuck to the traditional combination of red and gold. I painted the cloak using a dark to light dry brushing method. The base was a deep dark red, with each subsequent layer getting lighter until I reached a standard red. Since red is traditionally difficult to highlight, I transitioned to orange and light orange for the brightest areas, finishing the highest points with a touch of fluorescent scarlet. The final step for the cloak was painting the gold ornaments. I applied a dark brown shade along the edges of the gold to create a sharp line of separation between the two materials. All the leather strips, known as pteryges, were first painted white and then heavily treated with Gorgrunta fur contrast paint. I painted the eye symbols on his armor red with a bright yellow glow in the middle. I created this gradient using a glazing technique. Essentially, I apply semi-transparent layers of yellow and red until they blend together in a smooth transition. Long story short, it's a lot of back and forth. really liked the idea of a red glow reflecting from his armor, so I tried to simulate light coming from below. To do this, I painted Horus's head in a pale red, treated it with a diluted black shade, and then highlighted the prominent facial features with a brighter, more intense red. For the final highlight, I used fluorescent scarlet. There are just a few extra details and touches left, the final assembly, and here we are, the final result. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video, see you next time, take care.